movies. In the movie, he develops something that's called parallel action. And what I mean by that is that there could be two, let's say storyline A and storyline B existing at the same time, and we'll cut back and forth between those two, the two actions that are going on in each of those stories. Now, it's not super sophisticated, but let me give you an example that's not in the movie. If you go and watch one of his movies, another movie they made, there is a scene where there's a fire in a building, and we see a lady going, "Oh, there's a fire, oh no," and she's going out to the window, and she's screaming, and she's, scared to death that there's a fire. And then we cut to a fire station, a bell ringing, and people coming down a pole and getting into a fire truck. And then we cut back to the person screaming, "Oh no, there's a fire." And then we cut back and we see the fire truck come out of the fire station and start to drive down the street. Now that's parallel action. Those are two different actions that's happening. There's a lady in a building with a fire, and then there's firemen at a fire station getting the call and leaving. Pardon me. What's interesting is that there was discussion that maybe audiences wouldn't be able to follow or connect the two ideas together. In this day and age, after seeing so many different types of movies and ways of telling stories, it's not that shocking to us. But back then, they were working through these things, and so the idea of parallel action was really kind of developed by Mr. Porter. He probably wasn't the only person at this time, but he definitely was an early pioneer in this idea. And as you watch The Great Train Robbery, you're going to see cutting back and forth between different types of actions. Sometimes it's referred to as cross-cutting. And what's interesting is that there's no other medium in the world that permits the rapid alternation of multiple perspectives without destroying POV. You think about a novel where a lot of times you're not going to be cutting back and forth. Now, one chapter might deal with something going on, and then maybe halfway through the chapter we'll cut away to something else going on that has parallel action. But think about a movie that you could show a clip here of something happening, and then we'll cut back to another action, and we'll go back to that clip, and we can really kind of develop multiple stories that are all culminating toward one goal, and that's very unique to cinema. And you're going to see a bit of that in The Great Train Robbery. And he also discovered that motion added to the dimension of time. So you're going to see the camera not just capture this movie as if it was observing a play, or as if you were an attendee at a theater and you're watching a play. He's going to put the camera a little bit into the movie. Watch for the camera mounted onto the train as it develops, as it goes through the railroad tracks and just before the robbery happens. And watch also that the camera has a little bit of a pan from left to right a couple different times. Now, it seems insignificant to us now, but the reality is back then, this was creative thinking here. It was going, well, maybe the camera doesn't have to just be locked off in the back and capturing wide action. Maybe we could try to bring the camera into the story a little bit, which would mean that it's bringing us, the audience, into the story a little bit, and we connect with it a little bit more. And also you're going to notice, too, more shots in this movie. And what do I mean by a shot? Well, typically a shot is the camera, whatever angle it's getting, and recording whatever action is happening in front of us. If you look at Malay's movie, A Trip to the Moon, one shot typically equaled one scene because it was like a play. You're sitting there, you're observing it, and all the action is happening in front of it, and you're recording that action. In The Great Train Robbery, you're going to have 2 or 3 shots within the same scene, within the same sort of action that's going on there. If you'd like to have a little better definition, please take a look at your book and look at what shot is, look at what scene is. They can be defined for you a little bit more academically, but I just gave you the gist of it there. And really, here's the reality here. This movie was 740 feet long. It had 16 frames per second, and there were 14 separate non-overlapping shots. So, not just scenes, there are more shots in this movie than in A Trip to the Moon. I'm sorry I don't have the facts in front of me now, how many were actually in A Trip to the Moon. So, nonetheless, there were some really great innovations in The Great Train Robbery. And there also was a little bit of controversy. If you notice at the end of the movie, a guy's going to point a camera right at the a gun right at the camera, and fire. There were a lot of people upset about that. It seemed very violent to them, very threatening to them. To this day, I think we still speculate why he did that. The bad guys were captured, but then there's one of them that pops up and points the camera. Does it mean next time we're coming for you? Does it mean, hey, I can do whatever I want in movies and you can't tell me? It's debatable. But nonetheless, it was one of kind of the first controversies in cinema. So I hope you enjoy both of those movies. And over the next few weeks, we're going to see how just here in the first week that we've talked about, movies kind of were building on each other. They were being inspired by each other. And so next week, we're going to take a look at D.W. Griffith's A Birth of a Nation and Sergei Eisenstein's Battleship Potemkin. Great action movies. Epics. Birth of a Nation often is referred to as the first feature film, not without its own controversy. Battleship Potemkin has controversy as well, being a Soviet communist sort of propaganda piece, but nonetheless they were really good movies, and from an artistic point of view they moved cinema into new realms and inspired those who would observe them in the future to continue to make movies, to make them stronger, to make them better, and to make them more interesting. All right, well, I appreciate your time watching me. Hopefully it hasn't been too boring. In class, we would have had some really fun discussions with these things. If you have any questions, please email me. I want to make this as enjoyable and as interesting as possible, and partly that's why I'm recording myself, because just to listen to somebody on audio or to read a note, heck, we could all do that, but let's have some fun watching movies and learning a little bit. All right, thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.